Comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are farmers die in the fields across Nigeria. Time to lend a hand, the life on just gives the great and of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that someone else will come and make the change. From the gates of hell, we must turn away. And for truth, you know that GMO will destroy that. We are the children. There's a choice for making, but next to land for crap. We're saving our lives. It's will make a better day with God's own seeds. Just you and then we know it's so long. And I'm going to cry. From here,
Evening, everyone. What's happening right about now? Okay. Welcome, everyone, to today's session on the legal fine prints in agriculture. And at this time, this is long-awaited legal fine prints in agriculture. It's a program that I and so many others are so overjoyed to be a part of. So if you're joining us, you're right on time. Welcome, everyone. And we have with us all our speakers ready to dish out great stuff for us today because it's an amazing opportunity. We have speakers who are loaded with so much wisdom, so much knowledge about the law and agriculture and how they come together to make our world so important. You know, food is one thing we live with. Yes, we know that the Word of God tells us to not live by bread alone. But hey, yes, we know that the Word of God tells us to everyone not live by bread alone. But hey, yes, we know that the Word of God tells us to we must all eat and live our lives just amazingly. God gave us a gift in food. And what better way to understand more about food if we do not come together to see that sometimes it's being controlled, and we are wondering who's controlling what we eat and why are they controlling what we eat? Who gave them the right to control what we eat? If God gave us all things freely to enjoy, why would some people decide to say that they are the ones in charge and tell us what, when, and where? So, with the legal fine prints in agriculture, we are exploring a world of endless possibilities and also what we can do to take back that control that has been taken from us. We've all heard about the GMOs and the and the great and the things that have been done with it. Yes, negative stuff, quite all right, but now we're going to hear why we should not accept those things, the genetically modified foods or modified organisms that are used to create foods that we're not even supposed to be eating in the first place. And then you're being told it's good for you. That's like out of the ordinary. So now we're here and we're going to be exploring why, who controls what we eat, who tells us why, and why we should not let the wrong people tell us what to do as it concerns a gift that God has graciously granted us. So, with that, I welcome you and everyone joining us right now to Legal Fine Prints in Agriculture. So would be well, as we continue, I'd just like to let everyone know that you can keep your microphones muted. If you're joining us on X, welcome. If you're joining us on YouTube, welcome. Please drop your comments in the chats, and we would also be looking forward to, if you're on X, please drop your comments in the comment section, tag us, share, quote this tweet, and let everyone around you know that knowledge is power. And here you are in the right place to get that knowledge, right? So we're honored to have our host with us today, the highly esteemed Pastor Michael Njoku, and many other distinguished speakers. Like I told you already, our speakers are loaded and ready to give out value. So right now, I'll just go right away into introducing our speakers. And the first person on our list is Professor Dr. Prince Philip Injemansi. And I would like to read his bio. I've heard so much about this wonderful man, and it's such a joy, such a pleasure to be on the same platform with you, sir. Professor Dr. Prince Philip Injemansi, MD, was born on the 15th of March 1962 at Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria, in the family of the Njemanze royal dynasty. He is the chairman of the International Institutes of Advanced Research and Chidikon Medical Center, Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria. Professor Njemanze is a leading international neuroscientist and academician of the International Academy of Astronautics, IAA, the highest UNESCO body for space research. He is also a distinguished medical practitioner, DMP of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He pioneered the MRI phase contrast technique for cerebrospinal fluid flow in the brain, contributed to NASA and NIH space neuroscience programs, and has made groundbreaking discoveries in cognitive neuroscience, gender complementarity, in brain function, and the light theory of cerebral asymmetry. He has over 200 published works and is the author of the book series Igbo Mediators of Yahweh Culture of Life, volumes 1 to 5. It is my great pleasure and my great opportunity to make welcome Professor Dr. Prince Philip Njamanze. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you now.
Thank you.
So please, you can go ahead and speak. We're listening.
Yeah. Am I supposed to speak now or wait until others have been introduced? Hello.
So you can go ahead and speak now, please.
Oh, yes, I think I have an audiovisual presentation. I think your media people should have it. I think they can put it up if it's time to make the presentation.
Glory be to Jesus and honor to Mary and Joseph. Distinguished medical practitioners, it's my honor to address you the health effects of genetically modified organisms foods. My name is Academician Dr. Philip Njamanze, Chiriman Chittakan Medical Center Owerri, and Chairman of the Global Pro-Life Alliance GPA. Greeting to all pro-lifers here. One of the main selling points of GMO crops is that it would use less pesticide, hence less toxicity to the environment. This is absolutely not the case. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, has shown that the use of round pesticide from Monsanto increased with use of GMO crops. You can see this on the graph. It has been demonstrated that the pesticide used with GMO crops called glyphosate or Roundup causes cancer, as demonstrated by the World Health Organization. French investigators clearly demonstrated that rats feed with genetically modified maize show clear signs of hepatorenal toxicity. As you can see in the image, the Roundup-tolerant GMO maize causes liver and kidney failure. This was clearly demonstrated by the French investigators. Furthermore, rats fed with GMO maize developed breast cancer. In this slide, you can see the differences between the normal small intestine in rats compared to that in rats feed with GMO potatoes. The GMO potatoes cause damage to the digestive tract. Investigators have shown that genetically modified soybean damages the liver. On the left side is the normal liver, while on the right is the GMO soybean effects of the liver leading to liver failure. The Russian Academy of Sciences demonstrated that rat fed with genetically modified soy develop stunted growth and die prematurely. The image shows the normal rat at 19 day. The small rat below, whose mother was fed with GMO soy, is 20 day. The mortality in rats fed with GMO soy is 55.3%. Another work from the Russian Academy of Sciences demonstrates that GMO soy causes testicular atrophy in rates. The image on your left is normal testis, while the image on your right is testis in rats fed with GM soy. Below you can see profound pathological changes. In December 2019, Nigeria released of GMO BT cowpeas, Bacillus thuringiensis cowpeas or beans, and BT cotton cry wannabit has been shown that there is marked hematotoxicity of Bacillus thuringiensis. This blood disease manifests as acute leukemia. The promoters of genetically modified organisms, GMO crops, often cite biofortification of food. For example, adding protein or vitamins in food. In practice, it has repeatedly been shown that the scientific works cited were forged. Some of these works have been retracted from literature. As you can see here in this work funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation purporting that cassava biofortification with protein was possible. The Senator Danforth Institute where the work was done was forced to withdraw the work from literature because the data was forged. Despite this, the GMO promoters often cite cassava biofortification. Similarly, the so-called biofortification of rice, called GMO golden rice, according to the US FDA, contains no significant vitamin A. The amount of vitamin A in one bag of golden rice is 40 times lower than one small piece of carrot. If compared to spinach, is it 100 times less? Glyphosate, the main ingredient of Roundup pesticide, causes celiac sprue and gluten intolerance. This could lead to intestinal malabsorption syndrome, anemia, thyroid cancer, low sperm count, and kidney disease. GMO seeds are the cause of insecurity in Nigeria. Consider this: between 2015 to 2018, 37,500 farmers were killed according to the United States Council on Foreign Relations. Of these, 32,000 or 85% were Muslims, and 5,500 or 15% were Christians. This data shows that it could not be Islamic terrorism that kills 85% of Muslims. If you take a state like Zamfara, the victims were 60% Haus and 40% Fulani. This also suggests that it is not killings by Fulani herdersmen. Nigeria is under attack by biotech terrorists hired by USAID as suggested by the US Congress. Other funding of these terrorists is by Monsanto and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are using the cell phone called electronic wallets given to farmers by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to pay for farming inputs. The GPS coordinated were given to the mercenaries trained by Blackwater Private Army and owned by Monsanto and Bill Gates. We must push for a total ban of GMO crops in Nigeria as in EU, Russia, China. Even 1% contamination with GMO genes is banned by the EU. All Nigeria agriculture exports would be banned in the EU, Russia, China because of the 1% contamination with GMO genes from cross-pollination. Let's ban GMO crops. Repeal the legal frameworks which include the National Health Act 2014 that allows human organ poaching and ovarian egg poaching for GMO seeds exchange. Let Us move for repeal of the National Biosafety Management Act 2015.
Thank you very much. I
So sorry.
would like questions if anybody has.
So sorry, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I'm just going to cut in. Okay, so thank you first of all for the presentation. We'll get back to your session shortly, sir. We'll get back to your session.
Okay.
I know that we were to shortly introduce our host again, who would be giving us the welcome address. And just right after the welcome address, we'll get back to your session. So I'd like to kindly invite at this time the host for this auspicious moment, this program, the highly esteemed Pastor Michael Njoku, to give the welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Much appreciated. Grace and peace to everyone. Thank you for joining this very important and very special meeting. It's very important that we do what we are doing now, and you are in the right place at the right time. You are right where you need to be at the moment. I'd like to begin by thanking all of you, our participants. Thank you so much for coming, for joining the meetings, wherever you are participating from. If you're participating on X, you're participating on YouTube, or on the Zoom. What is going to happen to you is that your eyes are really going to be open to understand what's going on around you. You know, a lot of people are just walking through life without light, without guidance. And this program is to bring that light to you, is to bring that light, particularly in the area of food security and the law. You need to understand the potential of laws. Okay, you need to understand the potential of our agricultural laws, what can be done with it, what it can do, what it means for you and for the future and for your children and your children's children. And as the speakers make their presentations, you're going to be learning a lot of things. So I would give you 3 things that you must do now to ensure you get the best of this meeting. I'll come to that, but I want to thank our speakers. Esteemed Dr. Njemanze, sir, thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. I'm sure that would have questions from our listeners, and also to the esteemed Professor Christobel, sir, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Barrister Brian. Thank you to Barrister Prince Wayne. I'm looking forward to our meeting, Barrister Prince Wayne. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the team in Les Avocats. Thank you to Adobe, who is the moderator for this event. Thank you for everyone, the beautiful things that you did, all of you. An amazing team you are. Thank you for the great work that you do. And thank you for putting in so much to ensure that people hear and receive the truth. Now I come back to those of you who are participating. 3 things you must do. Number 1 is to take aside all distractions. You see, you cannot learn if you are distracted. So try to take away every kind of distraction that is around you. Anything that will take your attention away from this meeting, take it away so it doesn't take your attention away. Secondly, is to listen with an open mind. You know, some people have their minds closed. Their minds are closed, and it makes them not to really see beyond their nose. They already believe what they say they believe, and they don't want to hear anything more. Okay, because they believe they have come to the end of that knowledge. But the truth is that no knowledge has an end. There is always more to learn, always more to see. So I need you to have an open mind. Let down your guard. Be ready to receive new ideas. Don't be dismissive. Okay, don't hear anything and say, oh, they are just talking or this. No. Think, really think. And that's one of the problems we've observed with many people. They don't think, you see, because they were trained not to think, just to follow instructions and do what we tell you to do, you know. But it's important that you think. As the speakers will be speaking, think, consider, accept it, because we are bringing to you the truth. We have a community of people here, wonderful people, amazing people. It's difficult to find the kind of people that are working with us, you know, anywhere in the world. We have some of the best people in the world working with us. Truthful people, honest people that have your best interest at heart. So listen with an open mind and make sure that you take notes. The third one is to really listen. Now, you don't listen with your ears, you listen with your emotions. You have to listen with your emotions. Why? Because that is the only time you can take action. So those 3 things are things that you need to be very conscious of as this meeting is getting on. So once again, thank you so much and welcome to the Legal Fine Prints in Agriculture. And we'll be ready to receive questions for the esteemed Dr. Njemanze, who just made a video presentation now. So please ask questions. You can raise your hand. Make sure you ask questions. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, highly esteemed Pastor Sir, for that amazing welcome address. So we'll be going right to Dr. Philip Njemanze's session now. Over to you, sir, for your amazing session. So we can't seem to hear you.
they can also type the question in the chat if they have access to the chat.
Okay, I think we can move on. Okay, with time. Thank you so much, Dr. Philippe Njemanzesa is here with us. So we will proceed. If you have questions based on the presentation that was just made, you can type it in the chat and we will take the question. Dr. Philippe Njemanze is here. He's ready to answer your questions. And please make sure to ask questions so that you can have understanding. You know, the Lord Jesus said, the truth, you will know the truth and the truth will make you free. But the truth you don't know, that you don't understand, cannot make you free. So please, would be expecting your questions. So esteemed Sister Adobe, you can proceed while we wait for the questions in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, so if you're connected on X, we'll be looking out now for your questions on the platform. And also on YouTube. If you're connected on YouTube, we're looking out now for your questions, as well as on Zoom. So we'll be looking out now. And while we wait for the questions, I'll just read out, I'll just like to hand over to my co-host. He was supposed to be here with us earlier, but I guess was having a bit of some issues. How are you? So now we're going to be handing over to esteemed Brother Wisdom, please. So Wisdom, if you can hear me, just kindly let me know.
Good afternoon, good evening, esteemed Sister Adobe. Good evening, highly esteemed Pastor, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity. I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, you're welcome. So we'll now move forward while we wait for the question. And well, Brother Wisdom, over to you as you take the biography or the biography of Professor Pastor Christobeg Amwa. Please, over to you, Brother Wisdom.
Thank you so much, Sister Adobe. Thank you so much, highly esteemed Pastor, sir. Thank you so much, everyone connected. All right. Professor Pastor Christobeg Amwa. Professor Pastor Christobeg Amwa is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Agriculture, Science and Technology, IHO, and Executive Director of CEFSAR. Professor, sir, you're welcome.
Please, can you hear me, our host? The moderator, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right. I think Prof is still having a bit of a challenge to join. So we can just move on with the next speaker, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, I'll just read the bio of the next speaker right away. Okay. Our next speaker is Ambassador Brian Ukamdire Ukegbu. Ambassador Brian Ukamdire Ukegbu Esquire is a diplomatic lawyer, sustainable development goals ambassador, CSR and tourism advocate, human capital developer, human resources consultant, and business development strategist. He is the founder of Trifold Law and Partners, Trifold Management Consult, the Brian Ukegbu Foundation, and the Limelight Culture Arts Foundation for tourism advocacy. Laughter. He co-founded and serves on the board of trustees of Jahira Orphanage Foundation, Lawrence Hart and Holmes Foundation, and several civil society organizations. He is an executive of Ready to Lead Africa, a member and diplomatic attaché to the Directorate of Tourism and Diaspora Affairs at the International Society of Diplomats, and also a diplomatic attaché to the Directorate of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Matters, National Youth Council of Nigeria. It is my greatest honor to make welcome Ambassador Brian Ukamdire Ukegbu. You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, esteemed Pastor Michaels. Good evening, all protocols duly observed. I hope I am very well audible and you can all hear me. Hello?
Very well, we can hear you. Loud and clear, Mr. Brian. Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I would first of all commence my presentation by commending the beautiful, illuminating, incisive presentation from our distinguished prof. And I would go a long way to say that the presentation gave me a chance to learn and know much more about GMO foods and so many things that I did not know prior to this time. There's this saying that goes that when we stop, we die when we stop learning. We are always in a constant situation of learning. So I must commend the organizers of this event for making such an epoch-making event to be a reality, and also commend them for giving us all a chance to know more. Thank you very much. Now, heading straight on to my presentation, I want to start by mentioning the ground norm we have. What are norms? Norms are rules, regulations that lay down principles that guide human behavior in a society. And if we come to Nigeria, we'll have the parent law, which is what we call the ground norm, and it's the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, 1999 Constitution as amended. And it begins by telling us in section 1, subsection 1, that this Constitution is supreme and shall have binding force on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It goes on to section 1, subsection 3, to say that if any other law is inconsistent with the provision of this Constitution, the Constitution shall prevail. Shall, not may, not will. Shall, meaning that there's no restriction to the prevalence of the Constitution. It shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be null and void. Now, going further down into the Constitution, If we look at part 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, part 2 talks about the fundamental objectives and directives of state principle, or fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. I beg your pardon. And it says that it's in section 13, the part 2, talking about the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, spans from section 13 down to section 24 with the subsections. And it says that it shall be, in section 13, it says it shall be the duty and the responsibility of all organs of the government and all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, and judicial powers to confirm, to observe, and apply the provisions of this chapter of the Constitution. Section 14, subsection 1 of the Constitution, under part 2 of this Constitution, that is the part talking about the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, says that the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on principles of democracy and social justice. Please let us pay rapt attention to the later part of what I just read out, talking emphasizing on social justice. Subsection 2 of section 14 says that it is hereby accordingly declared that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this constitution derives all its powers. Section B of the subsection says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government, and the participation by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provision of this constitution. So whatever law that is being promulgated, whatever repealing that is being done, whatever reenactment that is being done, must be done in line with section 1, subsection 1, and subsection 3 of the Constitution, which stresses on supremacy of the Constitution and the fact that any other law that is being made must be in tandem with the sections of the Constitution and should not be at cross purposes with the intendment of the Constitution for the people. It further re-enshrines that the people have sovereignty, have control, and that true power lies in the hands of the people. Coming down to section 14, sub 1 and 2, it says that any law that is being made that derives its power from the Constitution and authorization from the Constitution should pay particular emphasis to the security and welfare of the people, and that this at all times will be the primary purpose of government. So if any other law we're making today is at abeyance or at cross purposes at the general welfare of the Nigerian people, such law, in my words, quote me, right, and you can go to the bank with it, should be dead on arrival. Any law that undermines the safety of the Nigerian populace or of the people upon whom it is being enacted should always at all times be welfare oriented, be safety oriented, should have the interest and the safety of the people as its forerunner. You will bear me witness that some of these laws are seen in the presentation by the professor, that are some of these laws that are being introduced today, of course, are really not in tandem with safety for the Nigerian people. A major look at other sections of the Constitution, still under the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. If we look at section 16, it says that the state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, harness the resources of the nation and promote national prosperity and an efficient, a dynamic and self-reliant economy. Subsection B of section 16, subsection 1 says that there should be control. It should control the national economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality of status and opportunity. Subsection C says, without prejudice to its right to operate or participate in areas of the economy other than major sectors of economy, manage and operate the major sectors of the economy without prejudice to the right of any person to participate in areas of the economy within major sectors of the economy. Suffice it to say that some of the laws that we will be looking at, which have been enacted, mischievously enacted, runs foul of some of the provisions of this Constitution. And this will form a bedrock of the major aspects of my conversation. While I tie my presentation and conversation with us this evening to the presentation by the erudite and learned professor, as earlier elucidated to us. Now, looking at the laws that I'm bringing before us today, one of the laws we'll be looking at is the Plant Variety Protection Act of 2021. This act is established to protect plant varieties, encourage investment in plant breeding, crop variety development, as well as agricultural innovation. Kindly bear with me all because I have little time to be able to postulate my thoughts to us, so I will be a little bit fast. Section 1 of the Plant Variety Protection Act re-enshrines the fact that the act has been established to protect plant varieties, encourage investment in plant breeding and crop variety development, as well as agricultural innovation. However, subsection 1 of section B of the act emphasizes on promotion of increased mutual accountability in the seed sector. This means that everybody is mutually accountable to everybody as far as introduction of plant varieties are concerned. This re-enshrines what we have mentioned here, that whenever any law is being introduced, there must be strict adherence to the rule of public safety, welfare, and public interest. Subsection 2 tells us that the Plant Variety Protection Act applies to both the breeder and then any plant in view, that is, any plant giving recourse to the genera or species of such plant. Part 2 of this act, that's the Plant Variety Protection Act, talks about the establishment of a Plant Variety Protection Office and further stipulates that the only requirement for the appointment of a Director General of the Plant Variety Protection, which is supposedly the enforcement wing or unit of the Plant Variety Protection Act. The major emphasis for appointing anybody as a Director General is if the person is a fit and we all know that who open to more analysis and further adumbration. Does this now mean that anybody, whether skilled or unskilled, responsible or irresponsible, with the best intentions for the people or less of the best intentions for the society and the generality of the Nigerian people, can be given such sensitive position with a cloak of fit and proper person in quotes attached to it as a reason for ascending such office, upon which the interest of the generality of the public and the safety of the Nigerian people lie. My people, this is a big food for thought. As we all know, corruption, nepotism, favoritism have eaten cornworm in our society today. Anybody can ascend such sensitive and exalted office, and we, the people whose sovereignty lies with, can do little or nothing about it. This is a huge problem. I mean, this is something we colloquially refer to as the man-no-man syndrome. Now, person where you know, you go put for that place, irrespective of the person's level of sincerity, veracity, the person's level of decency and discipline, as far as the safety of the society is concerned. Part 3 and 4 of this same act, that is looking through section 12 to section 19 of the Plant Variety Protection Act, talks about conditions precedent for the protection of the plant variety as well as acceptance of same. In this act, certain salient words were used. We lawyers are trained to pay attention to salient words. We saw words like novelty of plant variety, distinctiveness of plant variety, uniformity and stability of plant variety, without any emphasis on public safety and health implications for same. I also observed limited access to the plant varieties for small-scale farmers and people in grassroots, thus re-enshrining the fact that there is huge and potential monopoly of the richer people, the highly placed members of the society, to the disadvantage of these local farmers in the grassroots. Also, something I found particularly worrisome is the fact that in subsection 9 of subsection 1 and 2 of section 9 of this act, it allows the Director General to constitute an ad hoc committee for Plant Variety Protection Advisory Board. There was zero representation from bodies like Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Federal Ministry of Health, etc. This legislative oversight becomes worrisome as it leads us to obvious questions and a myriad of conclusions and realities. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Why would the Federal Ministry of Health not be a member of such a board that is supposed to be saddled with the responsibility of advising the Director General on enforcement-related issues and safety guidelines? There are many more reasons which I may not be able to delve into now due to time constraints. There are reasons I find worrisome in the Plant Variety Protection Act of 2021. But similarly, let us look at the National Agricultural Seeds Council Act. And a major look at this will reveal that the Act empowers the NASC to regulate seed industry operations in Nigeria. But I have observed that in the rural areas where subsistence agriculture is the order of the day rather than the mechanized system of agriculture, and illiteracy is a household name, there is still a similar problem of enforcement of international seed standards because the generality of these local farmers in the rural areas do not even have the technical know-how to be able to access information that would lead to them being in a better position to act as key stakeholders and key players in this agricultural sector that has just taken a paradigm shift from how it used to be before to how it is right now. This inertia and ignorance, large ignorance of these people in the grassroots sector poses a huge problem because it opens the door for nefarious people like the GMO Foods, Bill, Melinda Gates, and the likes to take advantage of this ignorance and use these local farmers to proliferate our markets with produces that are results of these plant varieties and seedlings that have been genetically modified and are now biohazards to us. This is particularly worrisome because if the wrong seed of the wrong plant variety make it out to the rural areas where we have a larger number of uneducated farmers, there will be a mass irrigation and planting of biohazards, which will in turn be exported to big cities where you and I live in large quantities to be consumed by you and I at the expense and the detriment of the larger society. We're going to be looking at the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy 2022 to 2027. The objective of this policy is to transform Nigeria's agriculture through technology, innovation, value chain development, etc. Also, the foregoing is believed to be achievable through mechanization, biotechnology, massive continued irrigation, digital agriculture, and climate smart farming. It is expected that if these are achievable, it will pave way for mechanization, biotech, continuous and sustainable agriculture, climate smart farming, thus leading to food security, job creation, export competitiveness. The question that I have is, and the question that is, however, left unanswered is, what is the role of the legal framework in supporting the policy of implementation? If we want to go back to the agricultural sectors, we have different laws in the agricultural sectors. We have the laws like the Land Use Act, which starts in Section 1 by telling you that the governor of a state is in charge, and all lands in a state is vested in the governor of that state. It comes up by telling you that the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not own any land. It is any land that is designated to the Federal Republic of Nigeria in any state by the governor of that state that belongs to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So there is a very big problem because the governor of a state is in charge of his lands in his states. And farming or agriculture is not done in the air, it's done on the land. So we need to be sure that the government that we have, the state governors, who to a large extent control the revenue, control what happens in their state because they have some form of autonomy in their states, would be able to devolve these powers in the best interest of the Nigerian people and not go and collect huge amounts of money at the detriment of the Nigerian people and then allow anything to happen in his state. Does it now mean that we are left at the mercy of the governors of each state? I mean, we have other laws. We have other laws in the agricultural sector. But like I said, the question here is, how do we move this legal framework to support policy implementation that is instructive to protection of our people through regulation of what is being brought into our society as plant varieties and seedlings that are to be planted by our farmers? The answer is simple. One, laws and regulations must be established in such a way that there are guidelines for enforcement of policies that are being posited before us. The rights and responsibilities of organs of government should be well defined in order not to allow these organs of government go ad hoc and arbitrary in the use of their power. The laws have to be promulgated in such a way that it does not stifle the ability of legal practitioners, etc., to protect human rights. These legal frameworks we have in place must provide mechanisms for enforcement of these policies through sanctions, incentives, and rewards. The legal framework should hold parties accountable and responsible for policy implementation and compliance. How do we synergize our laws, our agric laws, e.g. the National Agric Land Development Authority, Land Use Act, etc., to the NATIP, that is the National Agricultural Technology Innovation Policy of 2022 to 2027. We must review and reform all cultural laws to reflect these compelling realities and pitfalls. We must also engage all relevant stakeholders and provide legislative support and legislative activism for effective policy implementation and food security. I want to give an example. Sometime last year, a group of people met me by the name African Diaspora Union. And they told me that they had some foreigners in diaspora who were of African origin, right? And that some of them had traced their origin back to Nigeria. Now, African Diaspora Union was working with these diasporans to find their way back to their roots by bringing them to Nigeria. But sadly, when they came to Nigeria, they interfaced with the likes of Nigerian Diaspora Commission and other government agencies. And there were so much bottlenecks around all of this. And then they came to me and they were like, Barrister Brian, this is what's happening. Oh. We brought some people, they are desirous of having Nigerian citizenship because they are blacks and they trace their origin back to Nigeria. I mean, we gave them some chieftaincy titles and then we promised them expedited citizenship. But we went to Nigerian Diaspora Commission, and the DG of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, for her own reasons, decided to work against us. And she has made up her mind not to assist us in getting citizenship for these people. And I was like, is that so? They said, yeah. And then I started working with a group of people whom I may not want to mention right now. And we decided to pay a visit to the National Assembly with these diasporans to appeal to some legislators to know how they can use their good offices to ensure that this bottleneck that has posed a very big clog in the channel of what we wanted to achieve would be laid to rest. And luckily for us, we met the likes of the Senate Committee Chairman on Diaspora, Chief Victor Ome. We met the likes of Senator Prince Dr. Ned Nwoko, Senator Binta, and some wonderful Nigerian senators. And they decided to put heads together to see how they can make this citizenship become a reality for these diasporans who were desirous of finding their way back to their people. Ladies and gentlemen, I must announce to you that the draft bills were worked on and presented to these senators. And these senators used their abilities, their whims and caprices, and their riches in government to make sure that this draft bill was brought before the House of the Generality of the House of the National Assembly. And I must announce to you, without fear of equivocation, that this bill today has passed second reading. I mean, just a few months ago, during the regional assembly that happened in Akwa Ibom State, this bill was brought before the floor of the National Assembly as one of the bills to be looked at. And it was given a more than a 2/3 majority welcome in the National Assembly. And this bill is fast becoming law because a group of legislators decided to be not just rubber stamps, but activists in their floors of legislative authority. And then this is what we're talking about when we say that the legislative arm of government should be more active and support initiatives like this that are instructive to effective policy implementation around food security. We'll also look at proper funding for agricultural sector, just like the way the oil sector is being funded. If you come to Nigeria now, we want to talk about one of the major aspects of the economy that guarantees internally generated revenue, business, economy, and all of that, economic improvements and all of that. We should be talking about oil. Everybody's talking about oil. But because of the highly fugacious nature of oil, there are reports that are saying that in a couple of years, Nigerian oil reserves might go dry. If we lose oil today as one of our means of our major natural resources, does it mean we cannot thrive as a country? Countries like Australia and other countries are thriving on agriculture because the required level of funding is being put into agriculture by the people. Primarily by the people, by the country, Australia, by the country. So that whatever investment is coming from outside is secondary. So I think that we as Nigerians should look at this and look at it very critically and think of how we can start investing in agriculture, because the emphasis on oil will soon fail us. And where we refuse to do this, we leave the door open to nefarious personalities like the people propagating the GMO foods, Melinda Gates, Bill Gates, and all we leave the floor open to them to do as they will. And what they will simply do is they will infiltrate the local community, the grassroots, where most of the farmers there are not as learned as some of us. And then they will go to those places, give these people money. And when they give these people money, what happens? These people will do their bidding to the detriment of you and I. So the earlier we started working to build our own society by ourselves through emphasis on major sectors like agriculture, the better for us. General recommendations. I have recommendations to make, and I will start with the legal practitioners because charity begins at home. For the legal practitioners, I would recommend that we must help farmers, especially local farmers, to meet all requirements, both in the Plant Variety Act and the other subsidiary legislations, so that the failure of these local farmers to meet these requirements will not rid them of access to these seeds that we're talking about. Because if they are denied access of these seeds, what happens? There will be monopoly. The seeds will now be in the hand of a group of people who can now do whatever they want to do with it and then reintroduce it to these local farmers who will have no choice but to take it up from them and indirectly help them achieve their bidding. We must be prepared to help farmers review all contracts. Yes, all contracts. I mean, I haven't been in the legal practice for a very long time. I discovered what most lawyers know. And this is the fact that when somebody wants to give you an agreement to sign and the person wants the agreement to work against you, they make use of what we call salient words. It could just be a 5-letter word or a 6-7-letter word hidden in a very long group of clauses. And you may not even know, you may not even read through. Recently, I was talking to a business partner of mine who runs a reality TV show. And she told me how she lost millions, hundreds of millions of naira just because she failed to pay attention to a word as simple as trivia. So what these people do is they use bogus words. They use words that do not lend themselves to easy literal interpretation in agreements they make so as to use it to achieve their nefarious intentions. So we as legal practitioners must always be ready to assist these local farmers read agreements, to look out for these salient words and these words that are tools in the hands of nefarious minds, so as to help expunge it from these contracts and enable these farmers to not find themselves in a higgledy-piggledy situation or in a disadvantaged position. We must also help these farmers look at their land agreements in order not to have their rights or autonomy as farmers over their lands being stifled or have their rights being abrogated because they entered into the wrong land agreements. We must be updated and be ready to devise legal strategy for potential litigation around seed rights, licensing denials, nepotism, or land reallocation by government agencies and the members of the societies who are more advantaged than these local farmers. Transparency. We must look at public disclosure of licensing decisions, seed certification approval, equity in distribution of agricultural projects. Like I said before, we must shun all forms of nepotism, favoritism, man no man. All agricultural data collected under NATIP must be made anonymous. They must be decentralized and highly accessible to avoid monopoly and unfair control. Farmers must stay informed on certificates, licensing, and environmental compliance. Farmers must maintain and possess community seed banks to reduce dependence on few approved commercial seed suppliers. Farmers must be educated to avoid exclusion from markets due to non-compliance of provisions of law. Farmers must have strong unions to foster collective bargaining in their own personal interest so that they do not lose their voices. Finally, we must pay attention to the issue of funding gaps. We have a lot of big men, a lot of capitalists, a lot of investors investing in mundane things sponsored by the deep state to sway their minds and distract them from the real things that need public attention. You see people investing in things like Big Brother, a show that promotes sexual indiscriminacy, promiscuity, and so on and so forth. Just last week, we saw a lady who was very unruly on Ibom Air. And now all of a sudden, people are making bogus offers to her. People are telling her they want to take her to Dubai, they want to take her to this for an all expense paid trip. We have people telling her that they want, like the SA from Delta State, telling her that they want to put her on a salary of 500,000. You can imagine the FAN, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, talking about possible ambassadorial status. I mean, are these the things we are supposed to be paying attention to in our society? What happened to investing in local farmers, making them have the ability to convert from subsistence agriculture to mechanized agriculture? What happened to giving them enough money to be able to access the necessary seedlings that they need in order to produce the right food for us to eat? What happened to coming up with informal education systems, skill acquisition projects to help people in the rural area so that the divide between the people in the rural area and the people in the urban area would not become a harbinger and a floor bed for the nefarious people to thrive upon? These are indeed areas of concern, and I would appeal to us as a people, as Nigerians, as children of God, to lay aside all these distractions and commit our minds to these compelling realities in the society. Because when we refuse to do this, we are indirectly empowering the deep state to be empowered against us. Information is power, and the truth that you do not know cannot save you. It is the truth that you know that will save you. Thank you very much, and God bless. I remain your brother and friend in Christ, Brian Ukambire Ukegbu, Esquire. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brian. That was so amazing. Being a lawyer in equity myself, I was super shocked to hear laws that I've never known were in existence. Like, it's such an eye opener. Your session was such an eye opener, and we'll come back to you with questions in a short while. That was such a powerful session. Who knew? And like you said, it's something that I've realized recently, that we lawyers can be very wonderful. Lawyers can be very wonderful in the sense that when they want to confuse you, they'll just use very simple English, sometimes hard, but very simple English in a sentence, 5 words, just something, and wrap it up in a mumble jumble of 10 pages. And if you don't have the patience to read, for people who don't have the patience to read, you just scramble through the whole document and you're just like, okay, I'm signing. You just append your signature on anything. That's not the life we're supposed to live. Thank God that it's the time, it's the season of conscious truth, and our hearts and minds are being open to see these things. Don't sign any documents just because. Everyone, please don't. And would have to have the patience to be able to look through these things. I personally, from this session, I'm ready to get back in and like research on some of these laws, because I never would have thought I don't know, yes, that we've been hearing about them, oh, that there are laws like this. But thank God this is legal fine prints in agriculture. Now you and I can see why, I'm speaking to everyone, you and I can see why this program is so, so important in a season of truth like this. Thank you so much, Pastor Brian. That was super, super amazing. So grateful for the opportunity. And moving right along, I would like to invite Pastor Wayne. He's going to be speaking shortly, but I'll just read his bio right away. Prince Wayne Esquire is the principal partner of WCE and Co. Chambers. He holds the title of Lord Baron of the Privy Council. He is a former legal advisor of the Young Lawyers Forum NBA Buari branch and a current member of the Human Rights Committee of the NBA Buari branch. Please, I'd like us to make welcome esteemed Barrister Prince Wayne Esquire. Please kindly over to you, sir, if you're connected.
Yes, thank you, Adobe, and everybody for having me. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear, sir. Very clear.
All right. I want to observe all protocols. I want to thank Pastor Mike Njoku. I want to also thank our other guest speakers in the house, Prince Dr. Philip, Professor Pastor Amor, my learned friend, Ambassador Brian, and the hosts in general. I want to thank you guys for having me. So basically, the job is just very, very simple, and it's actually very straightforward. What are we here to talk about today? We're actually here to just talk about the legal fine print in agriculture. So my learned friend has observed and has identified the fundamentals of laws and the ground norm of laws in Nigeria, has also cited the sections that has to do with the supremacy of the Constitution. I've taken my time to appreciate his contribution to today's topic. So I'm just going to give us key highlights of these relevant laws that are legal fingerprints to agricultural sector in Nigeria. He has already mentioned the Plant Variety Protection Act. However, the National Agricultural Seed Council Act, precedes that of the Plant Variation Protection Act, because in 2019, the National Assembly deemed it fit to enact this law called the National Agricultural Seed Council Act, because they needed to establish the National Agricultural Seed Council, who was empowered to regulate seed industry operations in Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that most times they do what we call adoption. They adopt every other country's laws and regulations and policies. Nigeria do not really take cognizance of its own internal and uniqueness, internal factors and uniqueness of their own people. So this has always been a problem, but be that as it may, I'm going to just be looking at the highlights of these acts. Also, we have the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy. It's not a law, it's a policy which has been promulgated to run between 2022, that was about 3 years ago, to 2027. That's the next 2 years. So the implementation of this policy would determine whether or not, if it will be possible for there to be more innovations, or for them to completely legitimize it by making it and turning it into a formal law. Then we have the Nigerian Climate Change Act of 2021, because you know, the EU and even the world leaders, as far back as 2013, 2014, they commenced this climate change theory. They commenced the postulations of theories on climate change, and it took Nigeria over almost 7 to 8 years to key into, you know, international issues that affect not just the farmers, not just the crops, not just the animals. It affects everything about life in general. It took Nigeria a very long time to key into this. Now, the highlight of the Plant Variation, Plant Variety Protection Act 2021. The objective is simple. It seeks to protect the rights of breeders of new plants, new plant varieties. It also seeks to encourage investment in agricultural innovations. Now let's look at the other highlights of this same act. You will look at various sections of this same act as try to lay down scope of protections that includes exclusive rights to produce, the exclusive rights to market, and even to sell new plant varieties. Then we also see in the same act that there have been requirements for protections such as distinctness, uniformity, stability, and novelty. Now, these are the highlights of this Plant Variety Protection Act of 2021. Then the duration of acts and the duration of the breeders, the rights, the breeders' obligation. Also, you also observe that you have the balancing breeding rights with farmers' rights, such as seed saving. You will also observe that the risks that includes limited access for small-scale farmers and potential monopolies. Now, one major beauty of this act is the enforcement and dispute resolution mechanisms that it has highlighted. You would observe that there is a room for alternative dispute resolution. So where there are any form of breach in any rights and any, occurrence of liability, there is a room for dispute resolution mechanism that has been put in place by this same act. You can observe that we have the mediation process, we have the conciliation process, we have the reconciliation process, and we have the arbitration process. All these are dispute resolution mechanisms that is devoid of litigation. Litigation is always seen as as of last resort. Then we have, that is this one I just talked about now, is to complement what Ambassador Brian earlier talked about, talking about the fact that dispute usually arises where you are not careful to observe the clauses in an agreement. You are liable to end up having disputes. And when you end up having disputes, there will be need for dispute resolutions. And that is why the Plant Variety Protection Act 2021 provided for that. Now let's talk about the highlight of National Agricultural Seed Council Act 2019. Now, you observe that the objective of this act is that it establishes and empowers the council, that's the National Agricultural Seed Council, to regulate seed industry operation in Nigeria. Also, this act mandates the council, including quality control, certification, registration, and seed policy development. So when we talk about the quality control, the seed quality control, the council is empowered to observe that and make regulations for the purpose that, yes, the seeds and every other ingredients that comes into the country is of high quality. Also, they give certification and they also register any interested applicants that wish to be in the field. They also develop policies for seed policy. Now, in this same act, you would observe that there is a procedure. We have procedures for seed certification and licensing. You would also observe that offenses and penalty for seed adulteration and fake seed has been imputed in it, because of course what makes a law is the fact that it is backed by sanctions. When you go contrary to the provisions of the law, definitely you should expect that you'll be sanctioned when you're already found guilty of breaching the law. Now, let's look at the policy, the National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Policy of 2022. Now, this is a 5-year policy, which objective is simple. It's just a strategic framework to transform Nigerian agriculture through technology and innovation and value chain development. Now, this policy has been the yardstick for these persons that engage in or solicit for the GMO, terrain. And we are very, very informed by the speakers that have spoken before me on the dangers of these GMOs. And it's very, very key for every person to understand that a policy is not a law. A policy is a regulation that cannot be put in part with a law that has already been promulgated and, enacted and also gazetted. So this is a policy that there is an urgent need for us to look keenly into it, because in the policy you will see there that one of the highlights is that there's it tries to establish the key pillars of biotechnology, irrigation, and digital agriculture. Of course, all these things has to do with technology, trying to innovate plants or seeds using technology, which, like the first speaker said, is injurious to what? Is injurious to man. It's injurious to our health. And these things are things that they don't tell us. A lot of people are uninformed. And that is why there's a need for webinars like this to go viral. There's a need for these informations to be put out there so that those unsuspecting Nigerians can be well informed and well carried. Now, let's look at the fourth law I want to just make an highlight of, the Nigerian Climate Change Act 2021. Of course, the objective is simply to establish a legal framework for climate change mitigation and adaptation, including agricultural role in reducing emissions. Now, there's a link between climate change and agricultural productivity. Okay, we need to also understand that the risks that includes compliance costs for farmers and lack of awareness and technical know-how was also taken care of by this act. Now we just have to look straight to the recommendations for stakeholders. First and foremost, farmers should stay informed on certifications, licensing, and environmental compliance. That farmers who are serious business-minded people should understand that there's a need for them to have certification. If you have a farming business, you need to try to get a business name or get a company name so that you could now proceed to go to CAC or meet a legal practitioner or anybody that is licensed under CAC to register your business name so as to have some form of legal personality. Okay, that will enable you to have at least a condition precedence that is being stipulated by law for certain amenities to be given to you. You can access loans with a registered company or a business name. You can have an identity that people will not be scared of dealing business with you, because individuals right now are not the one doing businesses. It's business names that are properly registered and companies that are properly registered under CAC in Nigeria. Also, you need to understand that we have environmental laws, and we have the agencies. We have agencies like NAFDAC. We have even environmental agencies that some form of licensing and permits, are necessary for them to have, so that they can be properly guided and properly covered legally to operate their businesses without any form of issue. Now, the certification, of course, from the council, that's the National Agricultural Seed Council. If for any reason they already have it in mind as farmers that they want to go into full-time scale seed business, they have to look at this certification and obtaining it. Of course, my learned brother have already talked about the other effect, the other side of this monopoly and the lacunas in our laws. That's why I don't want to bother myself going into or delving into issues that has already been discussed. So looking at another recommendation, agricultural businesses should integrate innovation with legal compliance for competitive advantages. Now, there's a need for policy makers that they should strengthen the enforcement of and funding of agricultural law implementation. We have a lot of laws in Nigeria. However, the implementation is another big challenge. And that will take me on to what my learned brother just said. My brother, made mention of Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution. And the Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution, like my learned brother already said, was on the fundamental objective and directive principles of state policy. However, there is a need for the National Assembly to bring into light the Chapter 2, because by virtue of Section 6, subsection 6, paragraph C of the 1999 Constitution, Chapter 2 is not justiciable from the provisions of Section 13 to Section 24. All the provisions are just there as laws without any form of force in law, because the force of law of Chapter 2 by the same Constitution has already removed the justiciability in any court of law. So as it is, all the postulations that we have to make every directive principles on state policy should take cognizance of the public safety, and so on and so forth, are things that I can ship it in for my learned brother, that we can also look at Section 33 of the 1999 Constitution, that's under Chapter 4. The right to life, is another thing that I think in conjunction with what my learned brother earlier said, for Chapter 2, we, in the absence of the National Assembly doing the needful to pass another law for the enforcement of Chapter 2 or any provisions of Chapter 2, as item 62 in the part 1 of the second schedule of the 1999 Constitution, that's the exclusive legislative list, which gives or empowers the National Assembly to make laws for the enforcement of Chapter 2, which is not justiciable as of today, but we can still come under Chapter 4, under Section 33. So if we are very, very, very serious about tackling the dangers and the side and hidden agendas, let me use that word, side and hidden agendas of these policymakers, in bringing in seeds, crops, foods that are injurious to human health, and of course have succeeded in monopolizing, the legal frame, using the legal framework that have of course, read the highlight just now. There's a need for this organization, to look into it, and if for any reason anyone is a victim, God forbid, it is now that person that will have the local standing to go under, the enforcement of fundamental human rights in our court of law, to declare that such a policy is actually unconstitutional because it endangers the right to life of the person. Also, I would also want to just state it clearly that the data and intellectual property of these players in the agricultural sector, there's a need for the laws to focus on innovation and also understand that there's a need for farmers to be protected, because the truth is that a lot of farmers today have come up with a lot of innovations, and these innovations are being taken out there because of the fact that they are not aware that there is what we call your own idea, your own intellectual property being protected. They are not aware that there's what we call data protection and intellectual property protection acts that have been in different ways, put in place for every person with an innovative mind to have their intellectual property protected, So as at now, we need to understand that a lot of persons out there are uninformed. There's a need for the committee to reach out to those at the rural areas, get them informed that, yes, these are the laws that are currently in place. And then if my learned brother would also oblige the agricultural community, there's a need for these various laws, to be harmonized, to avoid contradictions, because there is actually a problem with the layman out there when they have various laws, trying to address one and same issue. So there's a need for this legal gap, to be covered and to be closed down. Now, the enforcement challenges in rural area is another thing. So there's a need for deep grassroots campaign, to enlighten the public and sensitize them properly so that they could understand and appreciate, because as it is, we have these laws, but then there's a need for urgency in taking priority to public safety. Because the truth is that when laws are made and it's open for policy makers and the people heading the council that is in charge of enforcing these laws, it gives them unfettered power to make policies and regulations in furtherance of that act, which enables them. And then if there's no proper law to limit the scope of that power, then you can have a lot of, our market can be open, so open that porous, seeds and agricultural crops can just find their way into our markets. And of course, that is another thing that we need to look into consciously. And I want to thank everyone that has paid attention. I think I will leave it for now till we have the question and answer session. Then I can chip in one or two things again. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, esteemed barrister Prince Wayne. Thank you so much. That was beautifully done. And well, it gave me extra insight personally into more laws, because at some point it seemed like all these things are just hidden in plain sight, really. And thank God that we are here opening up the books and letting people know, letting the whole world know that there is truth that needs to be told. And one of the things, or one of my takeaways from, esteemed Barrister Brian's session, where he said something about the economy and diversification. There have been talks about these things, and one beautiful thing I've realized in recent times is if you go around social media, it's really gaining traction that many people are starting to see. Many blind eyes are beginning to open. Many people are starting to understand the dangers with GMOs and GMO foods and everything around it, you know. And we're so grateful for the opportunity to be in such a meeting. My mind has been opened. I'm ready to do much more research, and I hope everyone listening is ready to do so much more. Tell everyone around you about the truth that you now know, because it's such an opportunity that we have, and why don't we go ahead to maximize it? Thank you so much, Barrister Prince Wayne, for that wonderful session, and we'll go right away into the question and answer session. Right away. Just a few minutes. The first question is going to our esteemed barristers in the house. And someone asks, saying, what is the fine difference between a policy and a law? So any of you can answer. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know, Ambassador Brian. Okay, so basically, I think I made mention of that already while I was, presenting. I made mention of the fact that the policy is a regulation that is made by an executive leader of a particular institution or organization or ministry or commission whatsoever. It's that regulation you make in furtherance of the objective of that particular, council or organization. So let's say, as it is now, the EFCC Act establishes the EFCC. So the EFCC chairman can make a policy in furtherance of the aims and objective of the EFCC Act that establishes it to try to go after financial corruption. So they can now make a policy that, well, if you are with cash that were printed in 2014 backwards, you need to come and explain to us why. Probably they've discovered that the bank was robbed and cash that were printed in 2013 backwards were, carried. So if you are having bulk of cash of 2012, because of it is part of their duty, they can make a policy that henceforth anybody that is making any transaction with a cash that is printed 2014 backward has to pass through EFCC. So that's a policy, but it's not a law. It's kind of a law per se, because it's now the actors within that institution have to now comply. For example, banks, they have to now comply with the policy so that they are not seen as aiding, the commission of a crime or the breach of a potential law. Okay, while a law itself are those principles, policies, regulations, and so on that are enacted by the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly. Okay, these ones have the force of law. They are backed by sanction. These ones, if you breach them, they can, open you up to either civil or criminal liability, meaning that you can be arrested if it's for criminal liability and charged to court for breaching them, because they are laws. The laws made by the National Assembly are acts. We call them acts. So whenever you see any law that ends with act, just know it's from the National Assembly. Then whenever you see a law that ends with law, is from most times from the State House of Assembly. So those ones are, operational. And when you look at the CADA, the laws that are made or acts that are made are higher and in no way close to a policy. A policy can be challenged and set aside by the courts, because it's in contravention of the establishing law or with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Prince Wayne. Okay, The next question is for Dr. Phillips, sir. Sir, okay, now this question came from the video we watched earlier in your presentation, and it says, it is stated in the video that a fresh research carried out where GMO foods fed to rats caused breast cancers. The pro-GMO counterparts have always claimed that there's no research that shows that GMOs cause cancers. Are these researches known, or are they just ignorant of it? So that's the question, sir. Dr. Phillips, sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It is unequivocal. Even the WHO declared that glyphosate causes cancer. And many of the international agencies that do survey have also certified the same. And many publications exist, quite a lot of them, that demonstrate that rats fed with glyphosate develop cancer. So that evidence is not something that they can refute because the literature is there. That is to that question. But I would like to use this opportunity to marry what the erudite speakers have been talking about in law and what is actually happening with GMOs and all the other actions you see in Nigeria. At least is what they have been banking on, that Nigerians would not understand this. Now, let me explain this in as much simple terms as I can. The overall strategy, and this did not start today. This started way back in 2005, when the G7 at the time held a meeting in Scottsdale, headed by Tony Blair, and all the billionaires of the Western world, the elite ones, were involved, chairman by Bill Gates. What was the question? The question is that the rise of China and the Southeast countries is going to take away technology from the Western world as a leading producer. If you can produce cell phones, they will do it cheaper, faster, and smaller in the East. So going forward, the West was going to lose in the technological. Now the question posed to the billionaires was, and all the elite scientists was, what do we do? We don't have resources? How do we now move forward as a people to support our economy? Now, the billionaires and some of the scientists came up with the idea that they have to move to the human industry. And human industry would mean, let me illustrate this simply by just telling you what the future of the human industry is cloning. So when a patient comes to me now and tells me that he's having these symptoms, his heart is failing him and all that, and I look, as I did today, to see that the heart has failed. All what I need to do is, with that echocardiography, I can introduce a simple needle into the heart, that heart that has failed, and take a small sample. It's at the tip of that needle. I mix it in a fluid, in a culture that is in a test, and then I can mail it out to a biotech company. Now, 90% of all the biotech companies involved in cloning have been bought by Bill Gates. He owns 90% of them. This is hardcore fact. So when that tissue gets there, what they will do is they will take out just one cell out of it. They'll go to the nucleus and take out that nucleus that contains the genetic information about that disease. They will now take the egg of a woman, obtained from a lady, they will now remove the nucleus in that egg and take the disease nucleus and put it inside that egg. When it grow and become a replica of the disease heart. So what has happened is that they have created a new heart. That's just like that's what cloning is all about. And then they will send it back to me and say, okay, look, doctor, implant this heart in this patient. So I implant it and the patient has a new heart. Well, maybe $2 million the patient has paid, or 1 million, or whatever that. This is the future of cloning. That is from the Western. This was done in 2005. They agreed on that. Now, but the question is, who is going to give the egg? Where are you going to get this egg? Throughout the entire Western world, beginning with Britain, the law is called the embryology law, the British embryology law. It bans you from taking the egg of any British woman, as is stated, any European that is within the whole European Union, and any woman from America. But all others are free game. You can take those eggs from anywhere. So they can do this cloning, but with eggs coming from Africa. So the G7 countries decided that they are going to go to Africa. And which African country has the largest population? It's Nigeria. The people don't know about it. They will never find out. They have a corrupt government. We can get this done. So they started passing the laws. First law was the National Health Act. If you read the National Health Act, you will see where it gives you the consent clause can be waived in section 48. You will read the National Health and you see in section 20 how they defined it, and they said that tissue does not include garments. All tissues arise from garments. Medically, no person can say that, but they said it in that law. Tissue does not include garments. What does that mean? They want to exempt sperms and eggs from the protection of tissue. So what they have done is that it's fair game to take the eggs of women in Nigeria and take their organs without consent. It is still active in the law. Now, the second law was the National Biosafety Management Act. That will allow them to use their own institutions to propagate and allow and examine the GMO. Why do they need the GMO? The GMO, they inserted a gene, which is called the terminator gene. The terminator gene means basically if you eat a GMO, you cannot replicate it. So the next generation can come out of that gene. There is a terminator gene inside. So it doesn't allow you to replicate. So you have to go back to them to collect it each time you want to plant that GMO. So what the caveat there is, when they come to us, we will tell them to give their eggs in place of the seed, egg for food. So they now created the seed councils and passed the law on the seed council, because they will need that seed council to be 100% Monsanto and Bill Gates product. So that's why they passed the seed council law. Now, but how will they get control of our old plants and crops, the yam and every other thing? That's why they came up with the Plant Varieties Act. What does that practically mean? Somebody invents something who is working for Bill Gates somewhere in Sweden, and they have a gene. They come around, plant it 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from your yam farm. and cross-pollination happens, and your yam now adopts that gene. That's your natural yam. Adopts that gene because it came into cross-pollination. They have a right to claim intellectual property protection against your own natural yam, because there is a trace of that gene, and the gene they will claim is playing a role in that plant. That's why they needed the Plant Varieties Act. Now they needed the Nigerian Climate Change Act. Why? Because Bill Gates wants to introduce a lot of genes called drought tolerance, the drought tolerant genes. He wants to introduce these products into our market. And he is the one carrying out this destruction of the diet. Why? They are doing it by what? Climate engineering. They can send in out a signal somewhere very far from Benue, and it will cause a tremor in Abuja or anywhere around there, and any dike or channel that is built will be damaged. Climate engineering is solely funded by Bill Gates. So you can see the legal framework which you are eloquently talking about is tied to this same objective. So we will be held hostage. 14 million from us, 250 million people who will be held hostage because they have seized land control, they have seized the food, and they will dictate every condition. And every woman in Nigeria has to donate their egg to eat. And how many times can you donate? One, first, you might skip that one, maybe the second one. By the third one, you are left with a failed kidney, a failed liver, infertility, infection, and ultimate death. This is the future they have planned for us, that God will never allow. If every one of us today undertakes the fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phillips. That was super insightful. Now I have a question for Barrister Brian. I'll just read it out right away. So I guess someone asked this question to Barrister Brian earlier because he made mention of most of the laws. The question says, you made mention of certain policies. How do these policies, like the Plant Variety Protection Act and the National Agricultural Seeds Council Act, affect the everyday farmer at the grassroots level, the village petty farmer? So over to you, Barrister Brian, for that.
Okay. Well, from what I know and from what I have seen so far, how it affects these local farmers is, first of all, we talked about enlightenment. Most of these local farmers are largely uneducated. They can't even read these policies we are talking about. They don't even know these policies. And then you're talking about policies. What they are talking about is, if I am hungry or I need food in my house, I will go to my backyard. Koana, as we say as Igbo men, I will till the ground and put my seed, water it every day, put the necessary things I need to do, and wait for my harvest. And once my harvest comes, I keep the one I will eat, and then the other surplus from it, I sell to make a little cash for myself. So you coming to tell them in their villages about plant variety, about these acts and all of that, goes a long way to sound like gibberish in their ears. So it affects them because they do not know the effect of some of these things we're talking about, like the GMOs and all the detrimental stuff that some of our notable speakers have earlier mentioned, right? Now, in their local capacities, what they can react to basically is, what they see, what they hear, right? And what they can feel. So if we take it upon ourselves as interest groups, civil society organizations, churches, and so on and so forth, and launch an advocacy campaign or program where we can now start enlightening them about some of these things by coming down to their level through translations, through their traditional rulers, through their age grades and all of that. Maybe we can get them to understand that. That is why we still have time. Like the professor said, talking about intellectual property, I am a Nigerian. I know of my yam. I know of my cassava. And then tomorrow, somebody is coming to tell me that there's a new variety of cassava and plants that they have attained a patent over or an intellectual property rights over. And then before I can have it, I need to come and beg them, or I need to come and do one or two things to do it. As a local man in the village, are you sure you're going to be making sense to me? So the point is, it affects them because if they are not enlightened enough to, first of all, know that these laws exist or this act exists through societal institutions, civil society organizations, and well-meaning Nigerians and organizations that may take it upon themselves to go and sensitize them on this first. Of course, they remain largely ignorant about some of these things. But when the necessary campaigns and advocacy programs are put in place to enlighten them, then they know. When you know, it's not the knowledge that is power, like we say, it's information that is power. So it is the information you get that carries the knowledge that you get. So when they are informed, they can now be in a better position to, one, make the right decisions should they ever be confronted by these deep state people. For example, let's digress a little. Back when we had the COVID-19 strain and the COVID-19 issue that led to the lockdown, a lot of people in the rural societies refused to take the vaccine. Why? Because they could not understand why they needed to take the vaccine. All they knew was their agbo. They take their herbs and their agbo and they are fine. And you're coming to tell them to take one vaccine. A lot of them did not take it. So the people in the rural areas have a large problem, a very strong original foundational problem, which is education, literacy, and the know-how. So if they do not understand some of these things, like they said, because the person with the money in his pocket is the king already, as our Chief Zebrodaya said of fond memory. You know, if I am a deep state person and I come to the rural societies and I say, look, I have 500 million to give to 10 rural farmers in this place. All you need to do is plant these seeds for me and make sure they get into the market. These people will do this because they understand that the money is going to take care of them and their family and their kinsmen, and also take care, make them achieve what they want, which is the same agriculture that they've been struggling to do. But when we bring up these policies and pick the positive sides of these policies and educate them about it, let them know the effects of these policies. Let them know their roles and obligations, their civic duties and responsibilities under these policies. It now puts them in a better place to make decisions as to whether or not to strictly adhere to the provisions of these policies or sift through and adhere to the ones that are safer for them. They now know that there is something at stake, which is their safety. As the philosophers say, survival is the utmost human goal. So when they know that their survival is attached and tied to a clear understanding of these policies and these acts or these laws, the access to the right seeds they need also is attached to it. And them being knowledgeable about this prepares them better to know they want to adhere to and they want to refrain from. I think it will put them in a better place. So that for me is the importance of these policies to these local farmers and people in the rural communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Brian. Thank you so much. Well, just because of our time constraints, we'll be able to take more questions, but in due course, you'd hear from us. So I would like to kindly invite our host, our esteemed host, and my highly esteemed Pastor Michael Njoku for the closing remarks at this time. Thank you so much, Pastor Sir. It has been such an amazing time, such an insightful, enlightening time being here in this program. Eyes have been opened, minds have been transformed, people are now educated enough and knowledgeable enough to ask more questions. So over to you, sir, for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Adobe. Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. What a time we have had. I'd like to begin by expressing my deep appreciation to Dr. Professor Philip Njemanze. Sir, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the things that you have shared. Thank you to Barrister Brian. It's great to see you, Barrister Brian and Barrister Wayne. Thank you so much for coming. I want to assure you we have listened keenly to everything that you have said, and we are taking action. What's the next thing for us to do? It's action. It's action, action, action. Okay, we're going to have another one. We are not going to stop until the deed is done. You see, we are not just here to talk and just to create an awareness. We are here to solve problems. And if what we are doing is not going to solve the problem, I would not be involved. And we don't get involved in things that don't work. Everything that we have set our heart to do, we know what to do, we know how to do it. We have never failed. We have come across lots of oppositions along the way, and we have always made it to the top. There's only one way to go. So I want to assure our dear Dr. Philip Njemanze. He said, God will not allow some of the wicked intentions of the globalists to take place in Nigeria. Yes, God will not allow it because we will not allow it. Christ in us is the hope of glory, and we forbid it, and it's forbidden. It's not going to happen here. Take that from me. It's not going to happen. So this is not just, we're not just trying to do something, trying to just have an activity here. We mean every word we are saying, and everything we say, we stand behind it. It's not going to happen in this country. It's not going to happen in Africa. It has failed woefully. And I want every one of our listeners to understand it's time for action. You have to act. This program has to go viral. Everybody has to hear about it. Everybody has to know what is happening. And that is the next phase of the work. We're going to take this to the grassroots. I know that Barrister Brian mentioned the problem of their lack of education. Well, we know how to communicate to people who are not so educated. There are many ways for them to learn. They can learn through their eyes. They can learn through their feelings. You see, they can learn through pictures. They can learn through images. They can learn through spiritual means. You see, and that is why we are deploying massive spiritual forces behind everything that we are doing. So it's not a one-off thing, not at all. We are going to be on this until we win everything and in every way, because this is our time. This is not their time. This is not their era. And you may say, okay, well, how come they went this far? They went this far because all of us were sleeping. We were quiet. We were just going to church, minding our business, doing our own things, and they messed up everywhere. and we were not interested in what was going on in society, what was going on around us. You know, some of us that knew what was happening just buried our head in the sand and pretended like God will do something about it. God is not going to do anything about it. We are the ones to do something about it. He says, whatever we bind on earth is bound in heaven. We have bound it, and it's not going to work. You see, and I want everyone to have that absolute faith, that confidence. This is not something we are trying to do. It's done already. That's the kind of confidence that wins. You see, you can't embark on something like this hoping that things will go right. We are not hoping that things will go right. We have made up our minds how things are going to go, and it's going to go that way. And listen, I don't want us to fear the enemies. They have no might against us. You see that? So it's important you know the power is with the people. They are very afraid of the people. They are afraid of all of you and me. They are afraid of all of us. And we know what this is going to take, what it's going to require. It's going to require unity, us coming together. And that is why we have, through this platform, we've brought Dr. Philip and our dear barristers here together, okay? And we are doing what we are doing. We are uniting. We are coming together to have one strong voice. We will get to that grassroots. Whatever is required to be done will be done, and will be done speedily, because we have the grace for it. But now, I want to address those of you who are young people. It's important that you understand what it means to be young, and that you are not deceived to think that youthfulness is synonymous with foolishness. And so all young people do is play and come up with innovations of how to play and laugh and joke and, just be unserious and think that they cannot change the world. We are raising young people that are changing the world, that are going to change the world. That's what we do in Lazaro Cats. We do many things. We do a lot of good to help the country, to help people. And our focus is on young people. You see, you need to understand, Martin Luther King was not an old man. Nelson Mandela was not an old man when he started. You see, so you don't stop planning to do great things when you get older. Wake up. If you don't know how to do it, that is why we are here. And we want you, you're going to see in the chat rooms or wherever you're participating from, you're going to find a link for you to register. You just click on that link, just a few informations that we want from you, like 2 or 3 informations, okay? And then you have signed up to join us, and we begin to train you and fashion you. Now listen, I don't care your academic status, whether you appear to be intelligent or not intelligent. No. Everybody is intelligent, okay? Those who think they're not intelligent, they are just deceived. Everybody is intelligent. For many years, for decades, we've been perfecting the art of making complex matters simple, of helping people move up the ladder from low, despicable circumstances and all kinds of problems to much higher and better circumstances. You see, so it is important that you know that we can help you. The question to you now is, do you have a heart for this thing? Do you want to do something about this? And if you want to do something about it, then join forces with us. Click on that link. Click on that link and sign up today, and your training will begin. We can change the world. You may say, I don't have money. You don't need money to change the world. You may say, I don't have this, I don't have that. You don't need all those things you think you need. All you need is the desire. Do you want to make an impact? That's all. And everything else, the money, the resources, everything that's required will come together. In fact, we started a global economy leaders forum, okay, to raise new leaders for the global economy. That's happening as I'm speaking now. New leaders are being raised from the young people, okay, for the global economy. This thing is happening. It's happening right now, and you have a chance to be a part of it. Do not let this opportunity pass you by. Young people, you need mentors, okay? And some, not just anybody who is on social media, who is popular, should be your mentor. You need the right mentors. You need divine mentors. You need mentors from God. You need mentors from heaven that will take you, shaping you, polish you, and make you ready for that great life and destiny that God has planned for you. This is what we are doing. This is what God called us to do. That is why I'm so confident. I know we will never fail. We shouldn't even be talking about that. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. You see, so we have solutions for how we will have the resources, how you everything that is required to do the good thing that is in your heart. The solutions are already there, and they are very simple. You see, and remember, all the people that have done great things in the world didn't know how to do it until they did it. So you don't need to have the full blueprint of how you're going to do it. The question is, do you want to do it? Do you want to do something about this? And I know that as you are there listening, there is something in your heart telling you to do something about this. But another voice of fear is asking you questions. Do you have the money? Do you have the resources? Do you have the intelligence? Do you have the power? Do you know who these enemies are? Do you know how big they are? Do you know how great they are? Do you know what they have done? Do you know this is threatening you and all of that? Listen. Don't listen to that voice. That is the voice. Listen, if you do nothing, they will take over the agricultural sector and kill you and kill your children and your children's children. You have to rise up and do something about it. You see? So you don't win because you didn't do anything about it. You don't win. You lose. You lose. But if you rise up to do something about it, you will win. Because I am telling you, it's a guarantee from us that this thing will be done. You will see it happen. And I don't want you to see it happen and feel like you had a chance to get in, but you didn't get in. And therefore, live an unfulfilled life, knowing that you could have done something, you could have been something, but rather than take the chance and step out into freedom, you slumped back into bondage. So we want you now to take that step. Click on that link and register. Is it in like 3 seconds? You're done with registration. Okay, it's not a lot of questions. So we want to have your data, want to have your details, and let us know. And we put you in our training platforms and begin to mold you and fashion you. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a doctor. Whatever it is you are studying, if you are studying French, Igbo, Yoruba, whatever it is your heart that is needed. Is there something in your heart saying, I would like to do something about it? Mark the question. The question is not, can you do something about it? If you know how to do something about it, just would you like to do something about it? If you would like to, click that link now and let us move to action. We have talked, we have explained. Those of you that asked questions, we will answer those questions. There's going to be a second edition, and our speakers are going to come back, and maybe we'll have some more speakers, okay? Because there are more depths to go into these things. And we are going to use more plain language to explain it to the whole populace. Because once everybody is aware and awakened, then everybody can rise up with one voice. Remember, in the Bible, when they were building the Tower of Babel, they had one language. That means they had one understanding. They had one mind. They had one understanding. So we want you to understand what we are saying. You see, we want you to understand what we are saying, and so that you can take action. Don't refuse. Don't refuse. It's dangerous to refuse. It's really, really dangerous to refuse. Take a step forward. Don't hope that somebody is going to come and do something about it. You are the one to do something about it. You and I. So it doesn't stop here at all. We just got started and we're ready to go till the end of this journey, however long it may be. I don't know how long it will take. I don't know when exactly it's going to happen, but one thing I know is that it is going to happen. You see, and you can hear the passion in the voices of our speakers, Barrister Wayne, Barrister Brian, Professor Philip Njemaze, Professor Christopher couldn't make it, maybe his network or something, or another engagement. But if you hear him too, it's the same thing you hear. We're all from different places. I think Dr. Philip Njemaze is in the US and the rest of us are in Nigeria, but different parts of the country. But we're all speaking with, you can hear that unity in our voice. You can see that oneness, that similarity in our voice. Yeah, that's it. And we want that thing to spark in your heart and cause a fire to burn in your soul. And then you take the action, and together we will make this thing happen. It's a guarantee it's going to happen because we have young people that are working day and night to make these things so, and it shall be so. You see, so let's make this go viral. Let's be active. I think it's Barrister Wayne that mentioned that. Okay, and it's very important we make this go viral. It's time for action. It's time to move. We're going to be taking massive steps. Now, the grassroots mobilization is on, and all of that. Registering with that link will give you access to our Global Economy Leaders Forum. Okay, for example, tomorrow we have a training for those in the real estate sector. Okay, and then we have training for those in remote workers too, I think next week or upper week, something like that. And lots of people are working with us here. So it's a vast network, you see. So you're not alone at all. And together, we can really make things happen. We have plans for how to get the money, how to get the resources and everything that is required, because everybody is rich. It's just that many people have thoughts and imaginations of poverty lodged in their consciousness. Everybody is actually rich. Everybody was born rich. Nobody is poor. And we are proving it with laser for cards. I'd like to thank again our speakers. Thank you to our moderators, our dear sister Adobe and our dear brother Wisdom Momo, SAH. Thank you so much. Thank you to the team, all of you that work so hard to make this the success that it is. We are going to do more as we move into the next phase of action. Glory to God. And I thank you all for your time tonight. Much, much love. And over to you, Sister Dobie.
Thank you so much, highly esteemed Pastor Sir. I'm super grateful for the opportunity. And just like Pastor said already, let's move to action. It's action time, it's action season. And I'm so grateful to God personally to be a part of history being made. You and I and everyone listening here has been a part of history. It's the first legal fine prints in agriculture. And I assure you that as you stay with us and look forward to all our upcoming programs, you would be there'll be a spark in your spirit, just like you already have right now. Many of us are joining. Please keep signing up to be a member of Les Avocats. I am a very, very proud member of Les Avocats, and I'm so glad for this opportunity. And I would like you listening to me, please do stay. You would not regret it. And also, please follow us on all our social media platforms across all social media handles. We are at Les Avocats on Kingchat, at Les Avocats International, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, on all social media platforms. Please follow us. If you're listening to us, even on YouTube, please because we'll be coming your way with insightful talk shows like this, insightful programs like this, insightful videos, in fact. And just like Pastor said, this is open to everybody. You can hear the same message that we carry, and everyone should be a member of Les Avocats. And right now, I'd just like to say again, thank you to all our speakers for a marvelous, marvelous time. We would look forward to the legal fine prints in agriculture 2.0. I'm just as excited. I hope you are excited if you're listening to me. And now I'd like to say, until we come your way again, eat right, live right. You have the best life to live, and the time to act is now. Please join us as we make global impact in Les Avocats, because that's what we know how to do best. We make global impact. Until we come your way again, I remain Adobe Tie, your host with the most, and I am so grateful for the opportunity. See you again at Legal Fine Print in Agriculture 2.0. Please stay with us. God bless you, and much, much love. Bye for now.
Thank you. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.